All right, today we're going to talk. All right, today we're going to talk about managing your budget. So, first and foremost, let's talk about things you need to do. First, you need to decide whether or not you're going to set goals or not. Um, well, things that should be important to you. Living without money worries, that should be huge. It solves so much of your problems. How can you do that? A home for your family. I'm sure most of you want a house at some point in time in your life. Spending time traveling, maybe that's something that interests you. Vacationing or whatever it is that you want to do, you need to budget for it. Enjoying camping with your friends or going to the beach or four-wheeling or mudding or whatever it is that you enjoy doing with your friends. Are you putting that in there? Do you plan to have children? If so, are you thinking about their education? Children are expensive to start with, but education is even more so expensive. Maybe you're deciding to be an entrepreneur and you want to start up your own business. What kind of car do you want to drive? Do you want to drive a motorcycle, take the bus? Do you want to have a truck or a car or a minivan? Whatever those things are, you've got to plan for them. You also, at some point in time, may need to figure out how to pay off credit cards. I've warned you about how credit cards can get you in trouble. Well, if you do, how do you take care of that? Uh, Savings account. Remember what I told you? You need to have 3 months, not just your rent, but 3 months of total living expenses in savings, whatever that is. Start an easy goal of $10,000. Remember, $25 a week for 7 years, and you will have $10,000 sitting in the bank. If you can do that as early as 18 years old, you'll have $10,000 in the bank at 25 years old, and I guarantee you, most of your problems in life will now be manageable, and they definitely will lower your stress. Building up savings over time so that you can get off work. Hey, a lot of people set a goal that they would want to be retired by the time they're 55. I'm looking at retirement at as early as 57, possibly. I can part-time retire if I want to at 57, or I can full-time retire at 63, 64-ish. That's where my game plan is right now. Why? I got a little later start in life. But you may be one of these people that plan to work till 70. I don't know. Or maybe you want to retire at 50. You'll need to make plans for that. As you consider all the reasons why to set a budget, it is the basic, simple, easiest enough thing to say is that I want to keep more of my money in my pocket and I want to have more things or a better security. And this is why you set a budget, okay? So, identifying your income and expenses, you need to decide what are the things that you must need, not want. Wants are things you can do without. Needs are things that you cannot do without. Obviously, mortgage and rent are going to be in the need category. Food, need category. I'm assuming electricity, TV, cell phone. Those are going to be in the need category. Maybe your job requires that you have internet or that you be contactable, so you're going to need a cell phone or at least a house phone. Most people do cell phones today. Car payment, maybe you need to be able to travel for your job, so you might need to have a car. I myself spend extra money on the car that me and my wife use to commute in. Why? Because we spend so much time of our life in a car, we want to spend it in comfort. So I don't buy a very cheap car. I usually have a very, very nice car for commuting because I spend hours a day in it. That being said, if it was going to cause me to go into debt and be or hurt my family's budget, then I would obviously step back to a cheaper vehicle. But since I spend so much of my life, that's where I spend a little extra money. I buy nice cars so that I can live in comfort while in those vehicles. Making room for other expenses, understanding that buying a car isn't just buying a car. You've got oil changes, you've got tires. Because I drive so much, I go through tires about every year, year and a half. So, a good set of tires for my truck are going to run me anywhere between $500 and $1,000 for a set of tires. For my wife's car, going to run me about $700, $700 for a set of tires for her car. And I know that every year and a half to 2 years, I'm going to have to buy new tires. So, I've got to figure out how to save up that extra money. Breakdowns. If you have a breakdown, or do you know how much it costs to have the fluid changed in your transmission? On my truck, it's only like $50, but for my wife's car, because it's all-wheel drive and it can only be done at the dealership, it costs me almost $200 to have the transmission changed. And you have to do that every 30,000 miles. Well, I drive about 25,000 miles a year. So, yeah, a little over every year, about every 14 months, I've got to have the transmission drained. That's $200. If you don't plan for that, you're going to have problems. So, you got to consider that. If you own a home, you put a roof on your house, well, you're going to get 10 to 15 years. Roofs are expensive. They're thousands and thousands of dollars, depending on the size of your house and what type of roof you put on it. But they are something you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to buy and put a roof on your home. What happens if you have a tree that dies in your yard? Do you know how much it costs to have a tree removed from your yard? I do. It's expensive. So you've got to plan for these things and start thinking about them long before they happen. It's not just what am I paying today? It's what will I also need to pay tomorrow. Separating your needs and wants. Well, all right, you've got your needs. These are the things you have to put at the top of your list. Then after you figure out the amount of money that you have left over, then you can start deciding what your wants are. Like I said, for us, we needed a car. However, since we commute a lot, my want was to have a nicer car. So the extra $200 a month car payment, we pay about $600 a month in car payment. You can get away with a car payment around $300 for a regular vehicle, normal vehicle. But if you want to get some luxury items, or you want to buy the top of the line so you can be more comfortable, you're going to pay for that extra. Is it worth it to you to spend an extra $200 a month in car payment to own a nicer car? There's a car and then there's a nice car. And they're two different things. So that extra $200 came out of my want stack. I needed a car, but I wanted a nicer car. So what would a need car be worth? And now how much am I adding to that expense in the want category? That's a weird one for me, but maybe you want high-speed internet. You can spend $30 a month to get internet, aka hopefully no more than one cell phone or one laptop is on the line at a time. But if you want super high speed for gaming or anything like that, the price goes up. Well, that changes into the want category. I want high speed internet. It's $90 a month. I could buy basic internet for $30, but for $60 a month, is it worth it to me, $2 every day extra, to have high-speed internet? That type of thing is what you're going to have to identify. Do I want to own a motorcycle or an extra car, or do I want to have a place at the beach? I have a timeshare at the beach. I pay roughly $200 a month so that every year I can go to the beach for 2 weeks. Is it worth it to me to be able to go to the beach for 14 days? Is it worth it to me to spend, $2,400 a year to stay at a nice place, and a nice place that other people aren't staying at so much, a place that isn't being used by 1,000 people every year? Is it worth it to me to spend $2,400 a year to be able to have a guaranteed 2-week vacation at the beach? Yes and no. For my wife, yes. For me, I burn like a lobster, so going to the beach for more than 5 days is, I can live without it. But so that my wife stays happy, it's worth it. It's worth $2,400 to me to keep her happy every year, knowing that we're going to go to the beach next month for 2 weeks. Yay! So, separate those needs and wants. What are your needs? Figure them out. things you have, things you have to pay, and then figure out what you got left for wants. Design your budget. Make sure your budget matches your spending plan, how you're going to set it up, when to set up payments. You know, a lot of places allow you to set when you're going to be paid versus when you're going to pay your bills. You need to design your budget so that your bills come out at the time you have your money, and that you have money set aside for savings and for other things. Remember, you always want to have at least 20 to 25% of your total income available for extra stuff, not in your budget. Extra stuff that you put into savings, or if you have an expense that comes out of nowhere, so forth and so on. Okay. Also, once you do this, you need to put your plan in action. Set up your payment plans, your check plans, develop a spending pattern. You probably need a calendar. My wife uses a little notebook, and every month she writes down all of our bills in the house, and then she goes through and she checks them off as the bills come out, and she keeps a running tally of how much money is left in the account and how much money is still needed to go out in the account. And this guarantees that we don't end up coming up short. That calendar is huge. You need to make it and plan it out. Don't be afraid to call your creditors, the people that you pay your bills to, whether it be a car payment or the power bill, and negotiate with them and see if you can get your bills moved around so that it works well with your pay schedule. I get paid on the last day of every month. Well, that's wonderful on a month that has 28 days, but it sucks when you have a day with 31 days. You don't think 3 days makes a difference, but it does when your power bill comes out every 30 days. So it is possible for you to pay a power bill in 1 month. And because that month has 31 days, the power bill comes back out again, at the end of the month in the same month before you get paid. Oh my gosh, that's a nightmare when you suddenly have $200. Yeah, I'm getting paid in a day or so from my job, and I'll have that money back in my account. But what if I didn't plan for it? What if I only had $200 in the account and the bill was $201? Now I've overdrafted my account. There's fees, there's charges. They may cut off my electricity. You know, wouldn't it be so much better if I could just move my power bill to like the 5th of the month instead of the first, every 30 days? You know, maybe you can negotiate with your power bill company that you pay on the 5th of every month, not every 30 days. Or maybe you need to set up your payments to where you have time for your check to go in. If you work for a small business, maybe your boss doesn't pay you like he ought to regularly. They should, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they mess up, and they promise to pay you on Thursdays, but they don't give you your check until Friday. Well, 1 day doesn't seem like a lot, but what if it does matter because of when you got bills scheduled? A lot of banks, when you put your money in the bank, that money isn't available to spend for 3 days. That's actually legal law. If you put money in a bank has the ability to hold that income for 3 days until the checks clear. So, it's very possible for you to deposit money to pay your bills and then it not be usable for 3 days in the bank. Most banks don't do that anymore. Most banks, you put the money in and it's available that night. At 12 o'clock that night, it goes into your account. It's available to be used. It's a done deal. However, legally speaking, banks can hold your check up to 3 days. What if you have bills come out between then? Think about those things. Make sure you schedule your payments so that it works in your plan, and be smart about it. Okay? Don't schedule bills on the day you get paid. Schedule bills a few days later after you get paid. That way you have time for the money to get in there, set up in your account before it starts going out. Make sure that you stick to your plan. If you have problems with your plan, don't just give up on it. Stick to it. Yes, sometimes things are going to have to get jumbled around. Sometimes you're going to have to plan within a month and move things around, but go back to your plan the next month, uh, or alter your plan if need be, but keep with the plan because it's the best way for you to track your spending. And if you're aware of how much you're spending, you will be more conscientious of your amount of money that you have and spend less. Okay, manage your seasonal expenses. Most people forget about it, but in August, most of you, we go back to school. You probably, like I did, every August, your mom took you shopping to buy you new clothes for school. Well, if you got 3 or 4 kids, that could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars in clothes. Are you going to schedule that in your budget? Do you plan for it? What about Christmas? How many of you got grandparents who start buying Christmas now? Why? Because they're on a fixed income. Many of them are on Social Security where they only get so much money every single month. But they want to buy you a nice Christmas. So how do you do that? Well, you buy Bobby's Christmas to this month, and then you buy Sue's Christmas next month, and then so forth and so on, and they take it out of their extra spending money. The money, that 20-25% that they had left over, that's their, their honeypot, their things that they don't have to deal with needs and wants. Or maybe they're smart, or maybe they have enough money to actually put it in the budget. I have $200 every month to buy Christmas presents with for next year. Well, then when you see stuff you would like to buy for someone, or you think of them when you're out and about or on vacation, you can buy those things. Yay! Car repairs. If you lived up in northern states, every winter around December, you take your car to your storage building or your garage and you pick up a set of tires complete with matching rims in your garage. These are your winter tires. You have summer tires on matching rims on your vehicle, but it's now winter, so you go to the shop and you have them take off your summer tires. You put them in the trunk of your car, you take them and put them back in storage, and now have them put on your winter tires. And you leave your winter tires on for 3 or 4 months. These are tires specifically designed to travel in snow. In northern states, you have winter tires that you do this. Matter of fact, I know people, I have family that live in Illinois, and when they go to a dealership and buy a car, they buy a matching set of rims and winter tires with the car when they buy the car. This way they have matching rims and tires so that their car doesn't look ghetto when they go and have the tires changed out and they've got all weird looking rims and stuff. But they have their tires and stuff in storage. They take them back to the house, and my brother-in-law has a place where he puts all 4 tires in his garage for each vehicle. And like I said, in December, right around Christmas, when he's home and the kids are home from college and whatnot, he takes them all to the tire place down the street, pays $20. The guy jacks the car up and swaps the tires, and then he takes the summer tires and puts them back on the rack. And the kids and his wife and everybody drives around on their winter tires until spring. Then in spring, come April, the 1st of April, around right before Easter, he'll take the cars all back to that dealership and have them swap the tires again and put back on the summer tires once the last projected snow is over. This way he maximizes his safety in his vehicles. But hey, you got to think about those things. That costs a lot of money. He's got 4 or 5 cars. So if you're paying $20 to $50, $20 to $40 for each car to have the tires swapped, well, he's got 4 or 5 cars. You're talking about several $100s just to have tires swapped. We're not even talking about buying tires. We're just talking about swapping tires. So you got to think about that. Vacation trips. I have a timeshare. That's how I handle my vacation trip. By the way, my timeshare isn't stuck to one particular resort. I actually can use resorts all over the place. This year, it's Myrtle Beach. Next year, we're planning Miami, Florida, baby, yeah. And then in the fall, we're looking at using 1 week next year in the fall to go to Grandfather Mountain and do Dollywood. Yep, ding, 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 ding. We're going to go do that, have some fun, yeah. Um, yeah, that's how I manage it. But maybe you'll figure out a different way. But don't forget these things unless you just want to be stuck. Keep looking ahead. You have to plan for the future. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have difficult times in your life. This is why having that savings account is so important. It's going to help you through those bad times. Think about how much less stress people would be in right now if they had 3 months of income available in their savings account. I would like to just say this, only about 10% of Americans actually have savings accounts with adequate funds. That means 90% of us either don't have a savings account or it doesn't have adequate funding. I don't have adequate funding. I am about $10,000 short of having my 3 month supply. I, for a while, had it, but I used it to go back to college and to help pay expenses while I was in school and not working at times where I couldn't work while in school. And I drained that and basically racked up a whole lot of debt. And I've been digging myself out of that for the last 16 years. But I still haven't recovered my savings. My savings account is still inadequate right now. However, I'm hoping that by a few things in the work, that by this time next year, my savings account will actually be up to par. I need to have about $24,000 in savings. Um, so that I can have 3 months worth of income available in case of emergencies. That is huge, and it's a lot of money, but I can do it. If nothing else, $25 a week for the next 7 years, I can put in $10,000 into savings, and I can do this. It's not that hard. Um, it's not fast enough. I really need to be putting in more than that. I need to be putting in about $250 a month into my savings. That doesn't sound that sounds like a lot of money, but in some things, it's not that lot when you consider the amount of money that we make as adults. But these are the type of things you got to be thinking about. You got to figure out how to make sure that you're accurate. When you get a pay raise, you need to go back and adjust your budget. You need to see how much you've got. Hey, can you stay within your old budget if you get a pay raise? If you can, maybe you can put more money into savings, or maybe you can start putting money into the stock market, start investments. That's huge. Make sure that you do what you need to do. You may even need to get professional advice. So don't be afraid to get that. Okay, how do you build good credit? These are tips on how to build good credit. First and foremost, set a budget, live within it, don't change it. Complete an accurate and consistent identification on credit applications. Why do we want to do this? When you fill out a credit card application or a loan application, they take into consideration how much you're already spending and how much money you have, so forth and so on. If you don't do that correctly, then it is easy for you to get a bill you can't afford. It sucks when they come back and say, I'm sorry, we can't give you this loan because, well, you're overextended. That sucks. It hurts. It's embarrassing, but it's better than not having enough money to pay your bills. Okay, so yeah, make sure that you're doing your credit applications correctly and accurately. So that way you don't get yourself into serious trouble. Pay your bills on time. Never ever be late. I'm horrible with bill paying because I'm so busy with so many jobs. I have all my bills set up on automatic that I can. I only have like 3 or 4 bills that I actually either have to write or call or actually schedule personally. The rest of them are all set up on automatic. Because of this, I have exceptional credit. Why? Because my bills are never late. And bills that are in bad times, I called them up and negotiated those payments so that I could get them on a day when it was convenient with my pay schedule. Have some credit, but not too much. Don't overextend yourself. A negative credit history is bad, but also so is bad of having too much credit. In other words, you have too much stuff borrowed. I am what is considered overextended because of medical bills and my daughter going to college. I'm overextended right now. That's actually what hurts my credit the most. I need to lose about $25,000 to $50,000 in debt in order to get back to where I need to be. But because I've co-signed student loans for my daughter, and my wife has had 2 major back surgeries and things like blah, 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 so forth and so on, I'm overextended right now. So I need to get myself back to where I have an equal amount of pay versus the equal amount of debt ratio. Remember, you're supposed to have 20 to 25% of your income free and clear. Right now, I'm running at about 10%. I only have about 10% of my income free and clear each month. That means I'm using 15% of my income that I shouldn't be because I've overextended myself. So recognize that's a problem. And people get into these traps. Don't let and I teach this stuff. I'm in it. So know that you guys need to fix those. Keep a mixture of credit types. You want to make sure that you not only have your small loans, but make sure that you keep a little bit of a mixture going. You can have a credit card, but don't keep too many credit cards. Also, keep your credit card balance low. You want to hurt your credit? Have your credit cards maxed out. They actually look to see how much of your credit card is available for you to spend at any one time. If you have a $4,000 credit card and you owe $4,000 on it, they're going to be asking them, and it shows that you've owed that for months. They're going to be asking themselves, why aren't you paying that off? So yeah, make sure you pay off. Remember, be a deadbeat. When you close an account, be cautious. It hurts. However, if you get too many accounts, it is better to close it. Anytime you close an account, it drops your credit score. They actually penalize you for closing an account. That's okay. You recover that within a few months by closing it if you're paying all your bills. Such as myself, I'm over extended right now, so I need to close a few accounts. That's going to drop my credit score. If I'm looking at major purchases, like maybe buying a house or a car, I might want to hold off on closing an account. It's okay not to owe an account, to pay off a credit card and have it sit at zero, as long as it's not costing you money to leave it there at zero. But if you got too many credit cards, or the temptation to use that newly emptied credit card is too much for you, you may need to close it in order to protect yourself in the long run, people. Don't forget, sometimes it's okay to close an account. Just be cautious. Recognize that when you do close an account, it does lower your credit score. Okay, but it's only temporary. If you drop it today, 3 months from now, you won't notice it. But you don't want to drop 5 or 6 accounts and then try to rebuild it. That might take you a year or so to rebuild your credit back. Okay, so recognize it's okay to drop an account, but cautiously, especially if you have big loans coming up, like a house loan or a car loan. You might want to hold off on closing a credit card account or whatever it is. You need to demonstrate stability. In making credit card decisions, make sure that you guys understand that you need to keep your place where you're at. I've lived in the same house for 30 years. That sounds like forever, and it is. But it really is good when I go for loans and stuff, and they recognize that I've been at the same place for a long time. I've only had 2 jobs, really true jobs, main jobs. I've had lots of side jobs, but when you look at long-term major employment, I worked for a construction company for 20 years, and I have worked for Rockingham County Schools for 16 years. That looks great on my credit applications. They like to know that I am a dependable person, and they know this by the length of employment. If you change jobs every month, they're not going to lend you money. It's also going to be harder for you to get an apartment. They want to see that you have had a job consistently. If you change jobs too much, it will hurt you. Okay? If you ever fall behind, call your lenders. They don't want your house. They don't want your car. Right now, a lot of people, because of COVID-19 being out of work, have called their lenders. I called my student loan people, and my student loans are on pause. I'm not having to make payments on my student loans right now for the next 3 months, not until July. So end of July, actually. My wife doesn't have to make loan payments on her student loans till September because of this. She called them. She said, "Hey, I'm worried about making my bills." And they were like, "No worry. We're in a special time right now." So they don't mind it. That doesn't mean that you can stop it forever. Normally speaking, if you have like a car, once during the car's, let's say 5-year loan that you have, you can call them up and skip a loan payment, maybe 2. They will let you, what they do is you don't make any payments for 1 or 2 months, and they take those payments and tack them on the end of your loan. So you end up paying a little bit more for the loan because of this, because you'll have to pay the interest during that time extra. But by skipping those payments, it may make the difference between able to switch jobs. Let's say you switch a job, and between leaving your old job and going to your new job, you lose a week's pay. You might need to call a couple of your creditors and say, "Hey, I'm in the process of switching jobs, and I'm not sure I can make this payment. Is there anything you can do to help me out?" On a mortgage, they might be able to just have you pay the interest, basically half the loan, so that you only have to make a half payment this month or something along that lines. They work with you. They don't want your stuff. Remember that. They don't want your stuff. But if you wait, if you skip the payment and then you're late and then you can't pay the next month and blah, 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 before you know it, you have somebody pulling up and taking your car away. That is bad. Bad, 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 bad. Don't let it impact your credit. Okay, so call them up. If you know you're not going to be able to make this month's payment, don't wait till the payment's due. Call them beforehand. Call them early and say, "Hey, I can't make next month payment." They will work with you. Types of investment. Once you've got your budget all set up and you are making your life, you need to figure out how to invest. This is so that you can retire. 401ks are often established by your businesses. I have one through my school, through the state of North Carolina. I also have a private one through for preaching, where I have a private fund. Okay, mutual funds. These are where you have stockholders and stuff. You might want to consider getting involved in a mutual fund. This is where you and a bunch of people go to an investor and they take your money and they invest it into a business. Stock. You might want to buy stock. You can do it yourself, or you can hire a stockbroker. Stockbrokers are educated and know how to do this to maximize your money. Yes, you're going to pay them for it, but they're probably going to make better decisions than you will. So unless you have a business degree, I'd get a stockbroker. Don't forget buying bonds. It's okay to buy a bond. Remember, that's slow credit. It's faster than savings, but it's still slow, but it's safe. That stuff ain't changing. You're going to get your money back. There's no risk there. Remember, stocks and mutual funds are risky. You're basically investing in the stock market, which is like going to Vegas. Okay, but all of these things will help you retire early. You want to maximize your portfolio, your retirement portfolio, so that you can retire at 55. Buy that house at the beach, so forth and so on. Keep an eye on what you should do when it comes to investment. High risk. This is when you invest in the stock market and you buy stuff that is not guaranteed. There is a huge chance you will lose your money. But in exchange for rolling the dice, you can double, triple, quadruple your money overnight. It could happen. Seriously, really, it could happen. On the other hand, if you're getting close to retirement, you're not going to want to do high risk. Because if you're so close to finishing up and being able to call it a day, from work, you want to consider low risk. You may want to transfer your money out of the stock market and put your money into CDs for that last 5 years or whatever. You might want to consider doing that. So remember, you have high risk stock market. And by the way, within the stock market, there's high risk stock market and then there's moderate risk stock market. There's no such thing as no risk. Okay, first and foremost, no risk doesn't exist in the stock market. Recognize that you can, however, minimize your risk in the stock market by dealing with moderate risk stocks. These are stocks that don't change normally very rapidly. But Remember, if you're slow growing your money, it's going to take you longer to grow your money to the point where you can retire. So you may have to work longer. So, 55 may not be when you retire. You might be 60 when you retire, or 65 when you retire, because you chose not to risk, not to roll the dice in the high risk areas. Keep that in mind. Okay. Building wealth. How do you do this? First and foremost, start a savings account. Everybody can do this. You should start one today. Get your parents to set you up. As, next time grandma gives you a $100 Christmas card or something, or you get some money for some birthdays or whatever, get yourself a savings account. Go ahead and start making that money. Get that $10,000 in there. Once you do that, get some CDs. Buy government bonds. They're great. Treasury bills are great. The U.S. government is one of the safest bonds that you can buy, and you can get that money back. Just recognize that if you buy a government bond, like a war bond, you don't get to cash that money in until the war's over. There are rules and regulations. Make sure you always read the rules and regulations on government bonds. But they are better than regular CDs. Okay, buy a home. Many people are buying homes. I will say this, that your generation is living in the moment. Instead of buying houses with big yards and big bills, they're spending their money on life. Two rules of thought here. It's okay that you spend your money on life. That's great. And you get to enjoy the most out of life. What I'm saying here is I know lots of people who live in apartments or live in a very, very small home, aka tiny homes, so that they can do things like go to Hawaii or go climb a mountain or go kayaking all the time or do the festivals and whatever it is. They're living their life outside their home. For them, a big house wasn't what they wanted. On the other hand, if you have a house, it only gets more valuable over time. My house originally sold for $11,000. Today it's worth about $90,000. 10 years from now, it'll be worth over $100,000 as long as I take care of it. It is an investment. Remember that. Invest in the stock market. It's always a good thing to do. It's a great way to make your money grow rapidly and really, really fast. There's two ways to make money from stocks. Dividends, this is when the company gets profits at the end of the year. They send you a dividend check. Now, most people take their dividends and just buy more stock with it. That way they can make more dividends. But I also know some people that when they get their dividends check, that's their vacation money. Here's the thing. My brother-in-law usually gets dividend checks because he has lots of stock. This year, however, because of COVID-19, the stock market has plummeted. It's crashed. Because of this, he didn't get any dividends. Matter of fact, his stock is worth less than it was a year ago. So he lost a little bit of money last year. However, the stock market will bounce back. Okay, the stock market will bounce back, and when it does, he'll start getting those checks again. You usually get them every quarter. Every 3 months, you'll get a small check in the mail, depending on how much stock you own. Capital gains. This is when you sell your stock that you have, and you are cashing out yours. You have to pay capital gains taxes. You have to pay taxes on this money. So recognize that taxes are due. Life insurance. Remember that everybody is, well, there's a lot of things you can't get away from. Death and taxes. Well, because of death and taxes, you're going to have life insurance. Make sure you guys understand the difference between term, universal, and whole life. I actually have a little bit of mixture of all of this. Term, these are insurances that are provided with my salary for a certain period of time. As long as I am working, I have term life insurance. This is wonderful stuff. It is money that I can count on if something happens to me. Through Rockingham County Schools, I have a $50,000 term life insurance policy if I die at work. So yay. My wife, if I'm on my way to work and I die, I've told my wife, I said, reach over and grab the wheel and drive me to school. Because if I die there, it's worth more money. But let's say you guys kill me with a heart attack while I'm working. It could happen. That is money that is guaranteed through my job. However, if I leave this job, so does that insurance. I will not have that insurance if I ever leave Rockingham County Schools. Okay, so it's only while I'm working. Universal. Universal is a insurance that I'm buying today, and as long as I make payments, I have that insurance. So I have this is great. It's a little more expensive, but I have about $250,000 universal life insurance policy on me. As long as I make these payments, my wife will get $250,000 if I drop dead. This will pay all their bills, take care of the house, take care of a lot of stuff that's been hanging over our heads as a family. Basically, I did this to make sure that my wife and child are taken care of. However, the day I stop making payments, that insurance goes away. So it's only good while I'm making payments. Whole life insurance policies. Whole life insurance policies are policies that are the most expensive, but they are kind of like a savings account. You pay into these insurances, and once you reach a certain amount of money, you don't have to make payments anymore, and you have a certificate where it's been paid for. It's good for the rest of your life. You can take it with you. You can borrow against it. It goes with you. It's not tied to your work. It's yours. You make the payments. You bought the policy. You now own it. And it is really, really good, but it is expensive. My wife carries whole life insurance. She has about $50,000 on whole life insurance. That was her way of doing it. Now she can borrow against it. It qualifies as income. So, it's there. She could cash it out early and collect the money early. Now, she can't collect the full amount. She has to leave it there until she dies if she wants it to actually cover the full amount that she bought. But the money that she has in there is available for her to get if she needs it, at least by some of it. So, that's something to consider. Think about that. Here is a basic scale. You might want to pause this and read over this, but this is basically the differences between this. Remember, term is while you are working. Okay, X number of years, as long as you have a job, or if you buy term life insurance policy for 5 years, as long as you pay for that for 5 years, you have it. Universal, it's wealth that is transferred, and you are basically paying it. However, it it is flexible, and yes, you can take it with you, and it is tax-free. Yes, 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 yes. However, recognize that if you stop making your payments, they don't pay. It just disappears. Whole life, it's like a savings account, but with insurance. Okay, so make sure you read over all this. Premiums and deductibles. Okay, when thinking about like car insurance, house insurance, medical insurance, any type of insurance, there's two things you need to know: premiums and deductibles. Premiums are how much you pay and how much it calculates for your risk and how much you're going to have to deal with. Because I'm overweight and I'm X number of years, I'm going to have more expensive health insurance. Because of that, you need to recognize that you're going to have higher premiums. Deductibles are the amount of money in which you're responsible before they kick in their insurance, before the insurance kicks in and pays. So recognize that you have deductibles to deal with. Okay. So right now, like my car insurance, I have $1,000 deductible. So if I get in a car wreck, I'm responsible for the first $1,000 worth of damage before the insurance covers in. Okay. Remember, if you have lower premiums, the amount of money that you pay, chances are you're going to have higher expenses out of your own pocket. Higher premiums, okay, means you're going to be, for someone who's going to need, like in health plans, higher premiums, the amount of money I pay every month is for someone who wants to be covered better. I want to be covered better because I have health issues. So I pay a higher premium. However, my daughter pays lower premiums because she's young, she's in excellent health, and she doesn't go to the doctor all the time, whereas I do. So she would rather save a little money on her monthly bill and have to pay a little bit more of the deductible out of her own pocket or in her copay instead of paying a bigger bill every month. I, on the other hand, would rather pay a higher premium and actually have less money come out of my pocket when I go to the doctor. So, think about that. You might want to consider this when you go get your first jobs. How good is your health? That is the real question. What's your family health history? If you've got a family health history of cancer early in life, you probably want a higher premium. That way you're covered in case you were to get it. You're at a higher risk. But if you're like Superman and you're young and you don't have a lot and you're not planning on having any children or whatever, you might want the lower premium. So think about those things. Car insurance. Remember that you must have car insurance. You are required by law to carry liability insurance. This means you're responsible for the injuries or the body or car damage to a other person's vehicle. If you want to have insurance on your own vehicle to cover the damage of your own vehicle, you have to have full coverage, which includes that coverage over your personal vehicle. Remember, even with cars, you have medical expenses, and you may be responsible for someone else's. Good news for you guys, you pay high insurance right now, but as you get older, it will go down. When you get married, you'll see your insurance go down. When you get over 30, you'll see your insurance go down. If you keep good grades in college, you'll see your insurance go down. If you have good credit, your insurance will go down. It's only when you make bad decisions in life or have no experience that they charge you higher rates. Keep that in mind. Consumer protection. These are the last slides. The government protects you from bad business. There's a lot of businesses out there willing to take advantage of you. Deceptive, unfair, fraudulent. They do this in order to trick people into buying stuff. This is bad business. If you suspect that you've ever had this happen to you where someone's either tricked you or whatever, you can contact the Better Business Bureau and go to them for consumer protection and file a complaint against someone. Yeah, there's people out there trying to get you. My daughter just bought a car. One of the things that they do at car dealerships that I don't like is they try to get you to buy all these insurances and undercoating and coverage, extra coverage for your vehicle. It's not bad. It's not actually fraudulent, but I will say that they make you think. The way they do it is not good. It's deceptive. It's high pressure salesmanship, that type of thing. You can actually report them for that if you feel like they have unfairly treated you or try to be deceptive in some way. So be cautious about there. People out there trying to do stuff all the time. There are laws against being bad business, and the government protects you from that. And you can go against it. And just recognize that the government's out there to protect you in all sorts of ways. So this is why you can't play with lawn darts anymore. These were a game when I was a kid. Big giant metal 5-pound dart with a big metal spike on the end of it, and used to throw it like a cornhole at a hula hoop, and whoever got your dart inside the hula hoop got points. The problem with this is when that dart came down, it often killed your cat or landed in little Timmy's foot. It was dangerous, so they got rid of them. The consumer protection, they went after the company and said, your product is bad, it's going to kill people, and it did, so they took it off the market. Same thing with food and stuff. They inspect your food, all things like that, health and safety. That's all consumer protection in order to protect you from bad business. Also, remember the Federal Trade Commission. These are the guys that regulate the stock market to make sure nobody's doing anything unheard of or deceptive or crooked in the stock market. This way you don't get caught holding the bag. This consumer protection laws help identify identity theft, credit card abuses, all sorts of other stuff, and scams. Recognize these things are out there. All right, folks, that's it. This is the end of this unit. Tomorrow I'll see you guys at the Zoom meeting, so have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.